Living with a pain problem can be tough. Pain can make us feel frustrated and angry, mixed up, confused, anxious and fearful, lonely or sad, sometimes in a changing pattern, just like the weather in Manchester. No wonder it can feel exhausting to live with pain. These are absolutely normal reactions. Having pain can affect many of the things that are important to us: how we see ourselves, our relationships with others, and what we can do with our time. But there's a secret to living with pain. Our thoughts, feelings and behaviours, or what we do, are all connected. And whilst we might not be able to take away the pain itself, changing the pattern of what we think and what we do in tricky situations can transform how well we can live with pain. My name's Eleanor Bull and I'm a health psychologist. I help people who are coping and living with pain. And in this video, I'm going to introduce you to a way of understanding and spotting unhelpful patterns of thoughts, feelings and behaviours called the cognitive behavioural model. And that's a model that's helped millions of people get to grips with tricky problems since the 1970s. So what is cognitive behavioural therapy? So the cognitive behavioural model comes from cognitive behavioural therapy, and CBT is a type of talking therapy which focuses on how your thoughts, beliefs and attitudes affect your feelings, body and behaviour. So it combines cognitive therapy, which is examining the things we think, and behavioural therapy, examining the things we do. It's based on a theory which shows that the way we think about situations can affect the way we feel and the way we behave in a bit of a cycle. So let's start with an example to show you how the way we think about a situation affects the way we feel and the things we do. Imagine you're in a deep sleep one night and then you wake up with a start because you've heard a noise downstairs. What would go through your mind, do you think? Perhaps your first thought would be, oh my goodness, I'm being burgled. If that thought popped up in your mind, it would probably make you feel quite fearful, panicky or anxious. This change in the brain would then trigger the symptoms of anxiety in your body. Your heart would be racing, your muscles would tense up, your hands might be shaking, and you might notice your breathing became short and shallow. What would you do? Probably hide quickly and call the police perhaps. What if your overwhelming thought was, how dare someone break into my house? In that case, you might feel anger. Again, you might notice your muscles tense, but this time maybe the heat's rising in your body, your fists are balling up ready for a fight. What might you do? Maybe march downstairs and confront them head on. But what if your first thought is, that must be the cat again. He's so clumsy. In that case, with this thought, you might not experience much emotion at all. You'd have few changes in the body, and the thing you'd probably do is roll over and go straight back to sleep. You can see that events like a noise or many other events in life are neutral. Without knowing more, we don't know if they're a good thing or a bad thing, but it's our interpretation, influenced by our experiences, like maybe whether we've been burgled in the past or if we know there's a cat downstairs. Those experiences make us feel the emotions and cause us those changes in the body that prepare us for action. Sometimes we treat thoughts like facts, maybe thinking, this must mean he doesn't like me, or I'm definitely going to mess up this presentation. And then we act accordingly with those thoughts. Sometimes this is in ways that might be ultimately unhelpful to us. In CBT, we tend to try and slow things down and then decide what might be the best way of looking at a situation and how might be the most helpful way to respond. Living with persistent pain often affects more than the areas of the body where the pain's experienced. It's really difficult to live with and affects many areas of life, can negatively impact on our quality of life. For example, it can affect the way you think. For example, thoughts like life's unfair or I'm never going to get better. Thoughts like these can then impact on how you feel. People sometimes feel worthless or anxious or low in mood or depressed, which can then actually impact on pain. So research shows that those kind of negative emotions or thoughts tend to increase our focus on pain, and that makes it more noticeable and more intense as well. And those thoughts, feelings, and the experience of pain then, of course, can affect our behaviours, the things that we do, such as our activity levels. So those reactions might not be that effective or might be unhelpful and keep tricky situations or negative cycles going. For example, some people with pain can find that they end up avoid socializing with others, they call in sick a lot with work, they might have difficulty getting out of bed or spending a lot of time watching TV, sometimes driven by the fact they feel really fed up. Avoidance of activity and withdrawing socially can reinforce those negative thoughts and feelings because you're stopping doing what's important to you and what you enjoy most about life. Also, low activity levels can lead to problems such as decreased muscle tone and weight gain or loss of fitness and weakness in the muscles, which can then increase our pain levels when we do go and engage in activity. Those are all completely normal and understandable chains of thoughts, feelings and behaviours when living with persistent pain, but they can keep cycles going and make rotten situations 10 times worse. Let's think of an example of this link between the way we think, feel and behave. Ben has been struggling with persistent low back pain for 5 years now. He had planned to visit his grandchildren today, but on waking up this morning, he experienced pain and he thought to himself, if I try and do anything today, I'm just going to hurt more. And I don't want my family to see me like this. And those thoughts led to another thought, which was, I'm useless, I'm failing. And those really difficult thoughts understandably led to Ben feeling frustrated, hopeless, guilty for not being the kind of granddad he wanted to be, and quite low in mood. Imagine then that he avoids moving for the rest of the day and actually stays in bed instead of visiting his grandchildren. Throughout the day, Ben will notice himself ruminating on his negative thoughts about himself and his situation. They're swirling round and round in his head. And that further makes him feel really down. He's feeling high levels of pain and he's getting quite stiff from lying down all day. In this cycle, you can see that the way that Ben thought impacted on how he felt, and importantly, the things he decided to do, or in this case, not do. You can see that on the diagram that the arrows are bi-directional. They go both ways. Staying in bed and missing out on seeing his grandchildren reinforced Ben's thoughts and his low mood. Those thoughts about not being the kind of granddad he wanted to be, for example. You can see his pain increased because he was just focusing all day on that pain, with no distractions, and his stiffness in his body increased things. All of them were interconnected, and we could say that this is a vicious cycle for Ben. Let's think of another example. Take Jamila. She's experienced neck pain for 2 years now. She's got 2 young children, and in this situation, she's tidying away some of the toys which have been left out in the living room. She bends down, moving her neck to pick up some toys, and then she experiences a bit of a jolt of pain and a twinge. Jamila has a sudden thought of, oh my gosh, I've twinged my neck. What if I've damaged it? Ow, I'm in so much pain. Walking is hurting. Maybe I'm going to cause further damage. And even I can't cope with this. She's experiencing pain-related anxiety, and she's starting to really worry that pain is a sign that she's really damaged her neck. To protect her neck and prevent experiencing more pain, she decides to go and lie down and ends up resting for a few days in bed. She starts spending quite a lot of time in bed to protect her neck and experiences more and more stiffness and pain when she's starting to get back to normal life again and playing with her children. Experiencing that pain then makes her worry all the more that she might have damaged something, and she's ending up resting more and more. You can see that the model of cognitive behavioural therapy there, this 5 areas model, is a bit like a cycle. So to really have a go at that, you can practice that on your own by taking a piece of paper and drawing a circle like a clock face. Practice with an example of something where you remember maybe feeling quite annoyed, upset or anxious at the time. Say 5 or 7 out of 10, but not something where you're actively upset about it now, as this is just practice. Perhaps draw the word situation at 12 on the clock face, thoughts at 2, emotions or feelings at 5, body changes at 7, and then your reactions or behaviours, what you do and don't do, at 9. And when you've drawn those headings out, you can start to fill them in. So what happened in the situation? What thoughts did you experience? How did that make you feel? What changes did you notice in your body? And what did you notice yourself doing or not doing in response? Finally, step back and look and think about what were the consequences of this. Did that reaction in itself cause any more difficult thoughts and feelings to pop up that you then add to your diagram? Looking back at this cycle is really useful when we're looking at the cognitive behavioural model, because it can really help us start to think where there might be places in that diagram where some helpful thinking or different reactions could possibly help people meet their goals a bit better next time, or break a bit of an unhelpful cycle.